Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive.
Good to be here.
Today, we're jumping into something pretty intense. We've got source material taking us right into the heart of X spaces.
Yeah, and not just any X space. We're looking at this really specific intersection. You've got high stakes, online activism, ethical hacking, cyber justice. It's all converging.
Exactly. And the source material gives us these really detailed profiles: psychological, activity, the works for three people right in the middle of it. Alberto Daniel Hill, he's the host. Then Helen, or Canfella, a NAFO activist. And Cindy at Luno's Right, who's described as a community peer.
Right. And our mission, essentially, is to figure out how these very different people, with frankly contrasting styles and expertise, interact in this live kind of digital campfire setting that Hill creates.
And especially how Hill's specific hosting style might influence that dynamic. The sources mention this crazy role that Helen and Cindy take on. We need to unpack what that means.
It sounds like they step up as experts, but maybe not in the way you'd traditionally expect in a tech-heavy space like cybersecurity.
Precisely. How does the host's own background, his, well, vulnerability, maybe elevate their kind of expertise?
It's all about how trust and authority get built in these online communities. It's fascinating.
Okay, let's dig in. To really get the dynamic, we have to start with the architect himself, Alberto Daniel Hill.
Mhm.
So, looking at the activity data for Alberto Daniel Hill, out of Daniel Hill, I mean, the guy's a force of nature on X Spaces. It's not just casual participation.
Oh, absolutely not. The numbers are, frankly, staggering. Since 2021, he's hosted 1,924 spaces.
Wow, just hosted.
Just hosted. He's co-hosted another 207 and participated in over 3,200.
That averages out to what, like 1.3 spaces per day, every single day?
Yep, consistently. It's an incredible pace. You have to assume this isn't just a side gig. This is like a core part of his existence.
Seriously, engaging that intensely, especially on the topics he covers. You're not just talking, you're building and maintaining a massive community around complex stuff.
And the volume puts him way up there globally. The estimate is maybe in the top 30 most active hosts worldwide.
And it's not like he's just chatting about, reality TV. His niche is demanding.
Totally. Deep cybersecurity, AI ethics, cybercrime.
Right.
He runs this regular thing called the Cyber Midnight Club. These aren't topics for passive listening. People tuning in want real substance.
So he builds this authority through sheer presence and depth. But the sources suggest it's more complicated than just knowing his tech stuff. His whole identity seems woven into it.
That's the key thing. His technical side is completely fused with this really powerful personal narrative, trauma and advocacy.
Right. He's known as the first hacker wrongfully sent to prison in Uruguay. That Darknet Diaries episode, number 25, laid it all out.
And he doesn't shy away from it. He actively frames his work, his hosting, everything through this lens of post-traumatic growth. It's not just background noise, it's the foundation.
So when he's hosting, he's not just some tech expert explaining vulnerabilities. He's talking as someone who's, been through the system's failures firsthand. How does that land? Does it give him more credibility?
I think it gives him a different kind of credibility. It's raw authenticity.
Yeah.
He's not speaking for a corporation or a government agency. He's positioned himself as a reformer, a survivor.
And it's not just talk, right? The sources mention this lawsuit.
Yeah. That ongoing $500,000 lawsuit against Uruguay over evidence mishandling from his imprisonment back in 2017, that's a massive public statement. It makes his advocacy very, very real. He's actively fighting for changes in cybersecurity law.
So you've got this blend: decades in InfoSec, PMP certification, certified ethical hacker, work with Interpol. That's the technical side.
Right. But then you layer on the advocacy, the personal experience of injustice, the fight for reform. He's teaching technical stuff, sure, but also resilience, how to navigate systemic failures. It's intertwined.
And that fusion, the tech plus the trauma, that's what shapes his hosting style, the whole digital campfire idea.
Exactly. It creates this unique environment. It's not a sterile webinar.
Definitely not. The sources say these spaces can go for hours, right? 4 hours plus sometimes.
Easily. And the core principle seems to be this radical non-judgment.
He has that quote, the Spanish one.
No opino, no juzgo, escucho todos. I don't opine, I don't judge, I listen to all.
Even if, as he apparently jokes, listening to some people is torture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that openness in a field like cybersecurity that can be really elitist, really gate-kept, that's pretty revolutionary. It invites people in.
But the topics are heavy. You've got PTSD, legal battles, complex cyber threats. How does he keep it from just becoming overwhelming or dissolving into technical weeds over 4 hours.
That's the art of it, I think. He manages the tone. It's technical analysis, yes, but mixed with raw passion, his personal story, and, well, humor, unexpected humor.
Like the source is mentioning fart jokes and singing Queen Fails and cybersecurity chat.
Sounds crazy, right? But it seems intentional. It's like a release valve. It punctures the tension, makes the heavy topics more bearable, maybe. It makes the space human, allows for vulnerability alongside the tech talk.
In philosophy, too, there's this proof of love concept mentioned. What's that about? It sounds a bit out there for a tech space.
It's not romantic love. It's more about commitment, resilience, shared struggle. For Hill, it seems like the real measure of value isn't your job title or your bank balance. It's the relationships you build, fighting the good fight, supporting each other through tough times. That shared persistence is the proof.
Okay, that makes sense in the context of trauma and advocacy. That kind of shared experience builds incredibly strong bonds.
Exactly. She put it all together. Non-judgmental, trauma-informed, long-form, blending tech with humor, and this philosophy of commitment.
It creates an atmosphere where maybe the usual credentials aren't the only thing that matters, where different kinds of expertise, maybe even opinions that seem crazy at first glance, can get a hearing if they're based on real experience or results.
That seems to be precisely the implication. Hill's style is very grassroots, focused on practical learning and ethical change, not corporate polish. By being so open about his own struggles, he implicitly signals that lived experience and demonstrable impact are just as valuable, maybe more valuable, than just having the right certificate.
And that's the key, isn't it? That's what opens the door for people like Helen and Cindy to be seen as essential experts in this specific environment.
Absolutely. He sets the stage.
Okay, let's pivot then. Let's talk about Helen at Canfella. Her profile is fascinating because her expertise seems worlds away from ethical hacking.
Right. She's identified primarily as a dedicated NAFO activist, Canadian woman, heavily focused on fighting Russian disinformation and, crucially, fundraising, very specific fundraising.
For Ukrainian military units like the Perun Unmanned Systems Battalion, Gimli Division, this is serious frontline stuff.
Extremely serious. So her core identity is activism, solidarity. She brings in personal touches too, apparently, mentions her dogs, her life in Canada. It feels very different from Hill's deep dives into InfoSec vulnerabilities.
So how does she function as an expert in a space discussing, say, electronic warfare systems when she's sitting alongside a certified ethical hacker? Where does her credibility come from?
It comes from verifiable action. This is critical. In the wild west of online fundraising, especially around conflict zones, trust is everything. Scams are everywhere. Helen's expertise, according to the sources, is in the verified philanthropic supply chain.
Okay, break that down. What does verified philanthropic supply chain mean in practice?
It means she delivers. Her fundraising isn't just hopeful appeals, it's meticulously documented. She works with trusted people on the ground, like Tanya Woes, who's mentioned, when she raises money for Starlinks or drones or whatever.
She shows the receipts.
Essentially, yes. Proof of purchase, pictures of the equipment handover, tracking numbers sometimes. It's about radical transparency. In a world drowning in misinformation, her ability to prove the impact, to close the loop transparently, that is a highly specialized form of expertise. It builds immense trust.
So she's not debating the technical specs of the anti-jamming gear, maybe, but she's proving that the gear discussed actually gets where it needs to go and makes a difference.
Precisely. She provides the tangible results that validate the whole effort. She turns the theoretical discussion Hill might lead into concrete reality. Her expertise is in logistical integrity and credible online action.
And her style reinforces that. The sources describe her as diplomatic, empathetic.
Very community-focused.
Yeah.
Uses inclusive language. We can do this together.
Yeah.
She seems to act as a sort of emotional stabilizer. Hill can be raw and passionate about systemic failures, which is powerful, but Helen brings this relentless positivity, this focus on collective action.
Avoids conflict unless it's disinformation trying to derail things.
Exactly. That positions her as this reliable, constructive force. She keeps the energy focused, keeps hope alive, you could say.
So she's kind of balancing the campfire's intensity, and this connection with Hill, it's not just random, they specifically connect on tech.
It's low frequency, the sources say only 3 to 5 mentions, but it's explicitly for cybersecurity discussions and tech talks. That's significant.
It suggests she's deliberately tapping into his technical knowledge base.
Right. Maybe to get advice on which specific tech is most needed, or how to secure the comms around her fundraising, or counter specific online attacks against her campaigns. She's bridging her logistical expertise with his technical insight.
Which naturally leads us to Cindy at Blue Nose Brit. Less detail on her in the sources, but she seems important as a bridge, maybe.
Yeah, she's described as a community peer of Helen's. They interact with medium frequency, 7 to 10 mentions noted.
And the context is key again. Chats about Ukraine, personal stuff, but also importantly.
She discusses tech security. That's the crucial link in the context map provided.
So, putting the pieces together, Helen is fundraising for specific tech like EW systems or drones. Hill provides the high-level tech security context.
Mhm.
Cindy, what's her role likely to be?
Well, the inference is that she acts as a kind of technically literate community voice. Maybe not the certified expert like Hill, but someone within Helen's immediate circle who understands the tech issues well enough to discuss them meaningfully.
So maybe she's the one translating some of Hill's more complex points into practical terms for the fundraising efforts, or vetting ideas from a user perspective.
Could be. Like, if Helen's considering funding a certain type of drone countermeasure, Cindy might be the one saying, yeah, I've heard from folks on the ground that the current comms on those things are easily jammed. Or, setting up that kind of network in the field is harder than it looks. She provides that peer-level technical reality check.
She's like the sophisticated end user perspective, perhaps, grounding the high-level discussion and the fundraising logistics in practical community knowledge.
Exactly. She represents that engaged listener, the person actively thinking about how to apply the information being shared. She ensures the conversation stays relevant to the actual needs and capabilities of the people Helen is trying to help. She connects the dots.
Okay, so this is where it all comes together. You've got Hill, the ethical hacker, the legal reformer, the trauma survivor, the certified pro. Then Helen, the empathetic activist, the master of verified logistics. And Cindy, the technically savvy community anchor. What actually happens when these worlds collide in a space?
What happens is you get this really potent synergy that redefines what expert even means in that context.
Hmm.
Hill brings the deep technical understanding, the why behind the vulnerabilities, the critique of systemic failures, the psychological weight of it all.
He lays the groundwork, the threat landscape, the ethical considerations.
Right, and then Helen steps in with the immediate tangible impact. Hill might explain the theory of Russian EW capabilities, and Helen follows up with, okay, and that's why we just successfully funded 5 units of counter-EW gear for this specific battalion, and here's the proof.
Wow. So she provides the real-time validation. It's not just theory, it's action and results.
It completely grounds the conversation. It shows the direct application of the knowledge Hill is sharing. And this is critical for maintaining momentum and morale, especially when discussing heavy topics like trauma or injustice. Helen's tangible successes offer hope, a sense of agency.
She balances the darkness in a way. Her updates about closing fundraisers, delivering gear, it counteracts the weight of the problems Hill discusses.
And maybe that's part of that crazy role the sources hinted at. It's crazy if you think expertise only lives in textbooks or certifications.
But here, Helen's expertise in navigating the chaos of online fundraising, in ensuring transparency, in delivering results, that's incredibly valuable.
It's arguably more valuable in that specific context than another purely technical analysis might be. Her expertise is in the execution of credible online collective action. In a space rife with scams and disinformation, that skill is gold.
And Cindy's role in that, she reinforces the relevance.
Yeah, Cindy seems to ensure that the connection between Hill's tech insights and Helen's logistical actions makes sense to the community. She validates that they're focusing on the right problems, the right gear, from a practical standpoint.
Okay, and Helen's diplomatic style, that community focus.
Yeah.
How does that play in? Hill's style is described as raw, passionate. Does she smooth the edges?
It seems like she has to, right? A 4-hour space fueled only by raw passion and trauma could easily burn out or fracture. Helen's empathetic, unifying approach likely acts as a crucial stabilizing force. She keeps the digital campfire from becoming a wildfire. She channels the energy constructively.
She maintains the we're in this together vibe.
Exactly. Which brings us back to Hill's influence. How does his specific way of hosting actively enable Helen and Cindy to step into these vital, non-traditional expert roles?
It seems to come down to him decentralizing authority. He's not positioning himself as the sole arbiter of knowledge.
Right. He's explicitly anti-corporate, focused on grassroots learning and ethical action. When the host leads with their own vulnerability, their own trauma, putting it on par with their technical achievements.
It sends a powerful message. It says, your lived experience matters here. Your demonstrable actions matter here.
It validates authenticity and impact over purely formal credentials. Helen doesn't need a PMP to prove her worth in this space. She proves it by transparently closing a fundraiser for vital equipment. Hill's style essentially creates the permission structure for her expertise to be recognized as equally valid.
And that allows the flow, the dynamic interaction we've been talking about.
Absolutely. Hill can be deep in the weeds on malware analysis or legal precedent, then pivot seamlessly to Helen detailing an urgent need for secure comms based on real-time battlefield reports. And maybe Cindy chimes in with community intel on what solutions are actually working or failing right now.
It's a rapid feedback loop. Tech analysis, real-world need, community validation action.
And that entire loop is lubricated by Hill's non-judgmental stance and his focus on community support. In a more rigid, traditional setting, Helen's updates or Cindy's practical insights might be sidelined. Here, they're integral to the whole purpose.
So the takeaway isn't just that Hill tolerates activism in his tech space, it's that his space is fundamentally structured to value high-integrity activism and practical application as forms of expertise.
That seems to be the core dynamic.
Yeah.
Hashtag FIDDY, synthesizing the dynamic in takeaways.
So if we zoom out, what's the common thread connecting these different players? Hill, the hacker reformer, Helen, the activist logistician, Cindy, the community tech voice.
The common ground is using digital tools and platforms to fight injustice. It's just different facets of the same fight.
Hill is focused on the underlying structures, the tech vulnerabilities, the ethical frameworks, the legal systems that fail.
Right. He's about understanding and reforming the system itself. Responsible disclosure, ethical hacking principles.
Whereas Helen is focused on the immediate, tangible impact within the current broken system, getting resources, EW gear, Starlinks, whatever is needed to the front lines right now, transparently.
She's the proof of concept. She demonstrates that the technical knowledge and ethical frameworks Hill discusses can be channeled into immediate, life-saving action.
So the spaces become this vital meeting point. It's where the philosophical and technical depth of ethical hacking, often fueled by Hill's personal drive for justice,
Connects directly with highly vetted, high-impact, real-world causes that Helen champions. And that connection, in turn, validates Hill's work beyond just theory. It shows his community that their specialized knowledge isn't just abstract, it can directly influence major global events.
It gives meaning and application to the technical skills.
Exactly. And this really forces us to rethink what influence means in these online arenas. It's clearly not just about having the most technical certifications, although Hill certainly has those.
So what is it then? What defines influence in Hill's digital campfire?
It looks like a combination. It's Hill's authenticity, that raw, trauma-informed narrative that builds a certain kind of trust. It's Helen's radical transparency, the meticulous verification of her fundraising, that builds another equally important kind of trust.
And maybe Cindy represents the community leadership aspect, the ability to translate between the high-level tech and the grassroots needs, keeping it relevant.
Yeah, it's like a three-legged stool.
Yeah.
Authenticity Hill, transparency Helen, and community relevance Cindy. That combination seems to be what creates the authority and effectiveness of this particular space.
So that crazy role Helen and Cindy play. It's only crazy if you're stuck on an old definition of expert.
Pretty much. In this context, mastering collective action, mastering the verifiable delivery of aid in a crisis zone, is a form of high-level expertise. Arguably is one of the most critical forms of expertise needed right now. They're experts in making things happen ethically and transparently amidst chaos.
Which circles back to Hill's proof of love idea. This highly engaged, collaborative model he runs, prioritizing connection and advocacy over, say, commercial gain. What does that tell us about where online knowledge sharing might be heading?
It strongly suggests a shift towards more decentralized, grassroots forms of authority. When the measure of value becomes proof of love, meaning proven commitment through shared struggle and verifiable results, like Helen provides the old hierarchies based purely on institutional affiliation or credentials, start to look shaky.
The community trusts the person who shares their authentic struggle and the person who shows the receipts.
It seems that way. It fundamentally challenges our assumptions about who gets to be an authoritative source, especially during a crisis.
Maybe the convergence itself, the technical expert deeply embedded in an ethical framework, validated by the transparent activist delivering real-world results, maybe that convergence is the new benchmark for trustworthy leadership online.
It could be. It suggests that the most reliable information and the most effective action might increasingly come not from polished institutions, but from these messy, intense, highly engaged digital campfires led by people with skin in the game and validated by transparent results.
Okay, so here's the final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. If this blend of raw authenticity, often fueled by trauma and passion and radical transparency, is what builds the trust needed for high impact digital action, how long before the established players, governments, big corporations, traditional NGOs, how long before they are forced to adopt the same level of messy human authenticity to stay relevant or trusted in the online world?
Does the digital campfire model fundamentally change the game for everyone? Something to think about.